Hello everyone, thanks for having me. My name's Robert Owens. I work for Nolan's Transport as the operations manager there. And I've been invited around today just to give you a bit of a day in the life of a transport company, primarily refrigerated produce. So my PowerPoint's probably going to knock anyone down, but I'll try and give you a few points here today. So the vast majority of our challenges as a transport provider come in from being able to supply rapid point-to-point temperature data to our growers. Obviously, when there is a problem, which we want to negate wherever possible, we need to be able to respond with being able to provide not only ambient air temperature around the product, so our refrigeration capacity, but also core temperature of that product. More often than not, that's what we are critiqued against, is core temperature rather than the actual airflow of the product. So once a product makes it to a distribution centre or end customer, they're looking at what temperature is the core of the product, not how we transited it. So that's a big thing, recording that at each point that we touch it along the supply chain, and then passing that back onto our growers and our end customers to say that we have treated the product as best as we possibly could. Another big challenge that we've been facing recently is the growing product range, that obviously more and more growers are diversifying. Growers that used to have one product now have 3, 4, and we're trying to cater for that direct off their farm in some instances. And those product temperatures can vary from a 2-degree product all the way up to a 14-degree pineapple, So the growing product range requires more precise temperature management and multiple handling points for us. So we could go to a farm and that grower might have once had a full load of market freight. So we picked it up, our truck went from the grower straight to the market, unloaded, our job's done. Now we've introduced a lot more handling points due to the multiple different endpoints for that customer. They might have a product for a Woolworths and a Coles and then an Audi and then the market as well. And unfortunately, typically our one truck can't make all those different stops. So we have to reroute that, transship it through a consolidation hub and then redeliver it all. And as Daryl said for us, unfortunately, the cooling capacity of our trailers are more designed to maintain temperature of a product rather than actually cool a product. So product being prepared and pre-cooled for transit for us is a big point that we've had issues with in the past, especially delivering a just-in-time service for a lot of people. More often than not, we are collecting product that's been grown or picked that morning, packaged, and then we're delivering it into a market or a Woolworths the following day. So if a product isn't pre-cooled for us as a transport company, it introduces a lot of risk and issues in the sense that we don't actually have the time to spend pre-cooling that under a fan-force cooling system. It's going straight into a trailer and we're trying to deliver it as quickly as possible, which is a trade-off that you get from the reduced time in the supply line, but then also less time to get that product pre-cooled. So some big improvements that we've made recently to try and negate a lot of those issues that I just spoke about is we're currently in the process of building new facilities Australia-wide, which come into the cross-stocking that Daryl spoke of and what I was just getting into. So state-of-the-art facilities in Sydney and Brisbane have just been built recently, with Melbourne and another one up north in the works. That supplies temperature-controlled transshipping locations, so our trucks can get in, unload the same temperature product onto the same temperature dock, and then redeliver it out on smaller trucks for redelivery services across major cities. Temperature tracking integration to give us real-time information. So we've been working with our manufacturer who creates our fridge motors. We've integrated their tracking system into our own transport management system now, so that we can give, on any of our newer fleet, we can give a real-time graph of what have we done with this product, what temperatures it's been running at, and has it maintained temperature specification. A big rollout recently is dual zone fridge motors. So we have a refrigerated trailer that has multiple fridge motors, one at the rear and one at the front of the trailer, which can be separated by a set of freezer boards. So we can effectively run 2 different product zones in the same trailer, which means we can supply a service to a customer that has 2 different products. We can load one up the front at a refrigerated temperature of 2 degrees and then one at the back at, say, 14, but still maintain both those product zones in the same trailer. We're currently undergoing a large commitment to individually barcoded pallets. Once upon a time, a lot of what we did was just a sticker on the front of a pallet saying this is where it's going, get it there as quick as we can. So we're implementing that at our depot level so that we can supply our customers with individual pallet tracking. They'll be able to pinpoint one pallet and say we need records for this pallet, and we can supply core temperature at our point of pickup, delivery, and the traceability throughout the whole show. And we're currently in a large online portal rollout as well, which will provide all that real-time tracking to our customers that wish to sign up. So any one of our customers can sign up to that. That'll provide them with real-time tracking of temperatures, delivery instructions, and where the freight is in location. That's all integrated through our global positioning system in our trailers, so you'll get to see location, temperature, and basically full track and trace on anything you'd want on the pallet. And that's about it for me, guys. Hopefully I've answered some questions. Has anyone got any questions for me? Yes. Oh, here we go.
So when you onboard new truck drivers,
Yep.
do you have that as part of an induction? Do you talk about any of the temperature, or do you facilitate any training for when they're actually picking up product?
100%. So all of our truck drivers go through about a 3-day induction, which seems fairly significant for a truck driver, but vast majority of that is not just safety guidelines, but also temperature induction, cold chain integration, so how we deal with the cold chain, pre-cooling of fridge trailers, and we supply all of our drivers with a very extensive list of product temperature requirements and specs, yeah. So we have it's a very large one, which I've memorised over the years, but for a new truck driver can probably be pretty daunting. But of about the 300 products that we cart, there is about 6 to 7 different product temperature zones. So you're trying to remember a lot of different data and get it right all the time.
I was just wondering, with your real-time tracking, what sort of devices are you not? Oh, sorry.
Yep.
With the real-time tracking, what type of devices are you? Is it a range?
So our core temperature is still recorded manually via basically a temperature probe that our loading staff will input into a destructible sample of the product, which is then recorded at pickup and delivery. And then the rest of the transit data is supplied by Thermo King, who build our fridge motors. They have data readouts that are now integrated into our tracking system, which is another company that supplies global positioning data for our trucks and trailers. Yeah, so that's all real time, connects via cell towers, very similar, or I'm assuming it's similar to the Ectovos system, but it's built into our fridge motors. So.
Any more questions, Melinda?
Yep.
And then Ian?
So is it just one temperature, ambient temperature per load? I know you get hot spots and cold spots in a truck.
Yep.
How do you deal with that?
So without a per pallet data recorder in the trailer and putting it in different places of the trailer, we can unfortunately only record discharge temperature out of the fridge motor at the front, and then the temperature that comes back, so return air temperature. The way all fridge motors works on trailers is that they'll discharge air from the top of the fridge motor down the back of the trailer, which then run down the back doors, come through the pallet, so the wood and the airflow floors that are built in, and then return to the fridge motor. So you can get an idea of what the product was running at by the differential between the discharge temperature and the return air temperature. Eventually, they should stabilise to say that the return air and the discharge are very similar. That means that your product's been cooled and thoroughly, but there is no way without individual tracking devices to monitor per pallet in each zone throughout the trailer. And that comes down to a bit of what Daryl said about that they're not, they're more of an ambulance than a hospital. They're meant to get the product to where it's going at the temperature it was put in there, rather than being able to actually pull temperature out of them. Most of our trips are about, well, from here to Sydney is overnight, so it's a 12-hour route. So your product goes into the trailer and it's effectively in there for 12 hours. And unfortunately, that's just not enough time in a trailer to pull any real temperature difference out of the product. Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Good presentation. I just wondered what are the sort of top 3, I suppose, of either products or routes that give you the most trouble?
Yeah, right. Products and routes to give it. So definitely one big area is the move to pre-packed items. We're definitely seeing a larger temperature problem with pre-packed items. I spoke to you briefly about that outside. I think I can only assume that the reason is because obviously there's a air bubble between the packaging and the actual product, which is making it harder to get the cooling into the actual product. So if something's going into a flow wrapped packet warm or not adequately pre-cooled, then it's harder to get it out of that wrapper cooled. As far as routes, I mean, all our routes, we use the exact same equipment, gear. We're delivering to very similar sort of distribution centres. So I wouldn't narrow it down to any route, but definitely our products with less core to them. So leafier products are a more temperature sensitive item, pre-packaged, and yeah, I'll go give you 2 instead of 3. Sorry, mate.
Any more questions? Philippe? Microphone? You'll get at the end of the day.
Do you transport everything that comes to you regardless of temperature, or do you knock some back?
There's definitely some things that we can't cart, and more often than not, we wouldn't refuse service. However, we would supply back to the customer that their product is already out of a reasonable specification, and not renounce ourselves of liability, but explain to them that we can supply a pre-cooling service before it goes into our trailer. However, if we were to transport this in a trailer, chances are it's going to come out at the other end, more or less the same temperature that it goes in there, irrespective of what temperature we set that trailer to.
Any more questions? I'd just like to thank you. One reason we had this whole workshop was discussions with Darren and then Flea Nolan about the issues about temperature management in this region and the hassles of picking up product that was not at the right temperature.
I wouldn't say hassles, obstacles.
Obstacles. Challenges?
Yeah, challenges, that's the one.
And the issues that sort of brought about for them and their discussions with their suppliers, and that type of thing. So it's a tough problem, and it translates to just local transport into the Brisbane markets or to the other end of Australia. So yeah, it's a pretty important thing. So, and we had some people come and approach us recently from ASIO, it's a research organisation based in Canberra, which does aid research, and they said, "Oh, we'd like to visit something different." So I said, "Oh, would you like to go to Nolan's Transport?" And they said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, how many people are coming?" They said, "Oh, 10. And I said, "Okay." So we talked a bit with Darren and got back to them and said, "Yeah, 10 will be fine, no worries." He said, "Oh, it's gone up to 100. No. But that was interesting because there was a lot of interest in understanding about temperature transport from these. This is people from the International Global Network of Crop Research Institutes in the world. So yeah, pretty good. So anyway, so I really appreciate you coming, and thanks to Darren and Flea as well for sending you along.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, everyone.